Hello everyone, this is part 17 of What If Naruto was told about his Uzumaki genes early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more, comment down below. Disappointing outcome. Not when he had already made preparations and had been certain that things would work in order. Yet, all that planning just failed. He had to throw everything out in the window because Kitsuki had returned defeated. He was honestly incensed about this. If the bigger picture wasn't Uzumaki, he would be making plans to destroy Am. He could not afford to take this route. Not when it was this dangerous. He would have to think this through and come up with a new strategy. Perhaps he could also involve Kumogakur on this. A Megakur cannot be a priority now, Onoki said. He had already listened to Kitsuki. And he had come to a decision. But they are dangerous, Kuretsuki said. She had a sour look on her face and her tongue clicked as if she had eaten something bitter. There was no winning with the seal sealing her chakra. She could not use chakra. She was useless in this time of need, and that angered her. She could only hate that bastard Naruto. It was his doing. Had he never appeared in her life that day in Tanzaki, she would have never even attempted to meet him in person. This thing of being captured would not have happened. It didn't matter that she was now free. She couldn't do anything, and that was perhaps the purpose of releasing her. This was an even cruel fate than being left in a cold cell with a woman who hardly spoke a damn word. 1,000 dead is a lot, Onoki said. Yes, they are dangerous, but we are not after them. We can't risk another confrontation now before we meet Uzumaki. We need to deal with Uzumaki first before moving to them. We will lose more men if he go after them. Kitsuki could agree with this. But I think I saw the Emperor. I am not too if it was him, but I think I saw him when I was trying to escape. Onoki's frown deepened. There has always been a rumor that Am is connected with Uzumaki. Regardless, we now know that they are the Akatsuki and are very dangerous. We will make a plan for them. But if they are connected to Uzumaki, they might make a move against us, Kuretsuki said. Possible, but it is better they come to us than we going them. Onoki said in a hardened tone. Should we try to search for Deodara? He is a member of the Akatsuki, maybe he can tell us something useful. We will probably meet them in battle, so there is no need to look for him, Onoki said with a slight shake of his head. We also can't afford to multitask like that. The ones who destroyed us are powerful, and I just saw Naruto firsthand. He stood before me in the wreckage as if we were his peers. He didn't even seem bothered by Ai's speed. He is going to be another dangerous opponent, and he's still a Jinchuriki. Is Han going with us? Onoki nodded his head. It would be a mistake to take both Jinchurikis to the war. We will take one and leave one behind. But they will only move when it is safe. I have already made 2 mistakes because I didn't know. The next one will be massively costly. I want to avoid that. In this situation, what was Kuretsuki supposed to do? Maybe that bastard was laughing thinking about her inner turmoil. She shook her head. Naruto was a cold and indifferent person. He wasn't even thinking about her. But he would pay for this. He would pay for this humiliation. What about my situation? I will be stuck with just taijutsu and kenjutsu with how things are. I have already sent a message to Kumo requesting their help. I also sent one to Konoha. I doubt they will help, but we don't have any choice. Onoki said. What was he thinking anyway? The Uzumaki were most comfortable playing with fuinjutsu. Just even looking at the seal you could see it was the work of masters. There was probably no one else who was not Uzumaki who could remove the seal. It was ridiculous though. It was just a simple chakra suppression seal, and yet none of the seal masters in this village could break it apart. They were willing to admit the seal itself was simple, but the locks that kept chakra from leaving was a complex web of formula they simply could not understand. It was like the handwriting of a child. Unless she said the words, you were not going to figure out what she wrote. I don't doubt your taijutsu skills, but you can't be in the front lines. You'll only be a burden if you get involved. During the fight, we will capture one Uzumaki and have him release the seal, Onoki said in a hardened tone. Kuretsuki did not kite those words, but she could not deny them. The truth was often unpleasant to hear. You should get treated before we move, she said to her father before turning back to face her grandfather. Which route are we going to use? We will move in 4 groups and move through the land of canyons and mushrooms. We will avoid stepping into the land of fire along the way. We will camp in the land of hot water and group with Kumo forces before deciding how we move into the wave. Then we will be forced to enter the land of fire. Konoha will not take kindly to a war happening in their own backyard. Although they may not enter to help Uzushio, they may do so because we are matching in their country. Onoki nodded. In the last war, Tsunagaku remained neutral, but Kazekage would stand at the borders and threaten all those who try to enter his country. I hope Konoha does not follow the same path. But they might, out of self-preservation. They cannot remain still while we are moving in their country and so close to them. No reasonable person would just sit still while people were fighting in the back of their house. Even if Konoha might not enter, they will likely march out just to be on the safe side, a warning to everyone fighting that they are not to think about going to another direction. With long histories between the nations, a confrontation was likely if the camps got close enough. And then Konoha would be fighting them. Kumo included. It certainly would not be fighting Uzushio. They were the aggressors. We will have to talk to the Godine the moment she does something. Onoki said in a stern tone. But our men must be reminded that they ought not to provoke Konoha. Indeed, the last war ended because of the Yondaime Hokage, but it does not mean we can win this time. We don't even have a reason to fight them. Kurotsuki agreed to this. Yet, she remained useless. Had she been 100%, she would have been leading the charge. She would have been happy to fight in the front lines. But now she had nothing. She could not do much. Should we send a few skilled people to try to infiltrate Uzushio? At this stage, they will surely be stretched thinking about war. Onoki nodded. That could work in our favor, he said. Remind everyone that they must absolutely avoid those two Akatsuki members. Everyone will just be slaughtered if they encounter them. Tsunagaku, it was finally happening. The war was really happening. Gaara had entertained the idea that with things moving slowly, perhaps it might not happen after all. It had been naive thinking from him. Of course, they were going to fight. And it had started. It really did start in the worst case possible, for a Wagaku at least. The news was already sending shockwaves around the elemental nations. No one had thought that Omegaku had such capable shinobi. But the rain had displayed it, and Iwa was surely not going to try to fight the village after those massive losses. This was war, all right. It was nothing but death. People just died needlessly. The war field was a shinobi's grave, and yet, this has never stopped people from starting wars. Shinobi never learned. They always repeated the same mistakes over and over again. But at least Gaara now knew why Naruto was confident he could win against both Kumo and Iwa. If two people working with him could cause that much damage within a couple of moments, what more could he, the Emperor, do? Obviously, there were going to be deaths. Massive deaths. Azu could not match the numbers of their enemies. They will be employing some tactics to reduce those numbers. It was not going to be pleasant. What is Konoha saying about this? Surely they will also move into the Fire Nation. If they had intended to move a portion of their forces through the rain, then they were going to cross the fire borders, Temari said to her brother. Gaara looked towards his sister for a moment before staring at the papers on the desk. He remained silent for a minute before finally speaking. I have not heard anything from them. But we cannot move because Konoha has moved. We must also fortify our borders, just to be safe. Temari nodded. You think Konoha will do the same? Most likely, Gaara said. We are closer to the Earth country. It would not be out of the picture for Iwa to send forces towards this side just to keep us guessing and from doing anything. We will also have to set out. Obviously, they will do the same. But we will try by all means to avoid fighting, just as father did. What about Uzushio? Temari asked with concern. Iwa is sending a bigger army than I had anticipated. That alone would make anyone afraid. I have seen Uzushio. It is not a shinobi village. I want to send you there, Gaara said calmly. This time at least things could be different. If Naruto is serious about his sister, then this time he will speak to her. I have written a message, I want you to deliver it to him. Isn't it dangerous to be moving around now? It is, Gaara admitted. But I still need you to go. You don't have to worry about your safety. I will send Baki and some others with you. They will return home once you have reached the wave. You can ask the Emperor to help you return home. I am sure by then, Iwa and Kumo will be all over, making movements dangerous. Are you sure he will be gracious enough to send me back? Temari asked cautiously. She still didn't know what to expect from Naruto. He was an unreadable person after all. You want to sort out your feelings with him. If he refuses, he doesn't care for you. Since it will be dangerous to return, request to stay there until we make plans to retrieve you safely, Gaara explained in a hardened tone. He once said that I was a better person than he was. I didn't get it then, I'd always thought he was a pleasant person. You know him better than I do. Temari shook her head. I thought I knew him, she said. I don't think there have been any changes with him. Gaara said. There were just a lot we didn't know about him, but I think personality-wise, there was much we missed. Of course, I could be wrong. Temari hoped not. Honestly, she was expecting the same person who came to her about a week ago. She was expecting to see that same smile that had greeted her. It would give her hope. She was still bitter, of course, but she could work around that if Naruto proved to be a person worth the effort. When do I leave? As soon as you are ready. Konoha. It was war all right. It was still unfortunate that Iwagakure had to suffer the same fate it did in the last war. But last time they had learned. Tsunade doubted this time around they were going to stop. They might choose another path, but it was unlikely that they would end their efforts. There were still many shinobi in the fighting stage. Yet, the heavy loss they suffered in the last round was certainly going to damage morale of their forces. Tsunade was not much worried about the hidden stone, she was simply concerned about the outcome of the war itself and the direction of things. There was no stopping it now. But they could still try to manage things. Uzumaki didn't want them to get involved, but Tsunade was not going to sit still and do nothing about the situation at hand. Naruto could do all he wanted to do, and if he turned on the leaf, there would a battle. Tsunade would give him one. No one was going to threaten this village and get away with it. No one. Not Naruto, and certainly not Onoki and I. The Godime Hokage looked around the chamber for a moment before speaking. Within the war room, it was Jiraiya, Sasuke, Shikaku and Kakashi. The war has already started and Iwa has taken the first damage. She announced. About 1,000 shinobi from Iwagakure were all killed by 2 people from Omegakure. It is Konan and Nagato, no doubt. Naruto is said to have been seen at the end, Jiraiya added in a firm tone. Shikaku did not find this surprising. They should have known that there was overwhelming power that Naruto was banking on in this war. He was not stupid nor filled with arrogance. He had calculated things. If just 2 could do that much damage, then it was going to be a long battle. It was going to be destruction all over. Jiraiya had already said Nagato was a wielder of the Rinnegan. There was still much they didn't know about the Dujutsu. He shook his head, they didn't know anything. Onoki is stubborn but not stupid. He won't try to pass through Omegakure again. He will use another route to move his forces to avoid them, Shikaku said. But high chances are that even if they try to avoid them, they will most likely end up being followed. Omegakure will not just watch them go to Uzumaki. The numbers are high and they will obviously be spread into different groups. Kakashi said. Will Uzumaki really survive this? The numbers from Iwa are already high. Turning to Kumo is another matter. That airship they showed, Shikaku said in thought. It was probably made for this purpose. It affords greater mobility and gives them the opportunity to bombard the enemy with aerial attacks. Most likely another force that was going to cause massive casualties. Yes, Uzumaki was definitely prepared for this war. The small village was prepared for genocide. If they were going to use the methods used in the rain, it was not going to be a war, but a one-sided slaughter. It just looked like Uzumaki wanted to weaken both Kumo and Iwa. Even if they win this war, it would not be without massive causalities. They both will be weakened and probably won't have the strength to fight each other. Uzumaki didn't even have to worry about the powers of Bijuos. The Emperor hosted the strongest Bau and the Uzumaki had methods to nullify all that power. Both Kumo and Iwa are obviously going to move into the Fire Nation to get into the wave. No doubt there will be some ships moving through the ocean, but the land movements will move into our country, Sasuke stated. I would be willing to stand guard at the borders to stop any advancement. That would leave them with no choice but to use boats and ships to get to Uzumaki, Kakashi said. We would effectively be stopping their invasion and I don't think they will be pleased with that. This has nothing to do with Uzumaki, it is about protecting our borders, Sasuke said in a hardened tone. I could care less about what happens to Uzumaki, but we cannot give them the idea that it's alright to march into our country. Regardless of how it might look, Sasuke is indeed right, Tsunade said. She did not doubt that Sasuke didn't care for Uzumaki. But you cannot go out. Not now. Not in your condition. It's not like it is that bad, Sasuke said with indifference. Tsunade shook her head. I know that, but you don't need to do anything. Kakashi will lead our forces towards the border. Are we going to stop them? No, Tsunade said. Stopping them means a confrontation. We will be dragged into the war. But we still cannot just overlook the issue. I don't want this village to fight a war it has no business in. We won't engage them, but we will give them a passage and a time frame. Once passes, we close the gates. Shikaku smiled. It will be like we are assisting them. It is unlikely that Uzumaki is going to allow them to reach the wave anyway. Remember, they have built much infrastructure there. If battles occur there, civilians get caught in the crossfire, it will be destruction. So it is likely that they will be attacked along the way, Jiraiya said. Knowing Naruto, the attacks would occur just around the Fire Nation. It was going to be chaos all over. He just hoped that no one ended up attacking them. If someone attacks us, we will respond. We are not going to be pushed over. Even if it is Uzumaki. Like is said, no village is going to push us around, the god Hokage said in a hardened tone. We don't want to fight, but those who attack us will face us. Sasuke had no complaints about this. It was a sound decision. He just didn't like that he would be kept in the shadows of things. But he knew that if things heated up, he would be called into action and perhaps he could come across Naruto. It was almost inevitable that he would attack the blonde. Naruto was a threat to the shinobi world, and to Konoha. Once this is over, we must call a cage meeting. I will discuss this with both Suna and Kirigakure. But certainly, Uzumaki possess enough power to make it look dangerous. That is under the assumption that they survive this war, Shikaku said. Tsunade smiled. Whether Naruto wants to or not, but we are not going to allow Uzumaki to destroy it again. We let it happen before, we won't let it happen again. Although we will do nothing now, we will be keeping a close eye on things. The moment it becomes dangerous, we will step in. No doubt Kumo and Iwa will make measures to guard against that, Shikaku said. He could almost see Iwa forces stationed just away from theirs to keep them from moving. Unless you have another method of getting our forces close to Uzumaki without going through both Kumo and Iwa first. There is a method, Jiraiya said. But it involves getting Kirigakure on board. I think because Kiri and Uzumaki are trade partners, it will be most effective. I see, Shikaku said in thought. Kirigakure, perhaps it was because Mei hadn't been on a date in quite some time. When was the last time she had been to one anyway? No one asked her out. Marriage was not coming. The horror never ends. But when Haku had come, she had asked to delay their talks a little bit so they could talk it over at dinner. He had seemed surprised by it, but she hadn't minded it. She just smiled and told him someone would get him later. Haku was a handsome man. So much more than the Emperor, and he was such a kind-hearted soul, nothing like the Emperor. Was she comparing them? She shook her head. She had no interest over the Emperor in that fashion, but she was curious. She smiled warmly at Haku and spoke. I hope this doesn't make things awkward. I haven't been out in a long time. I just wanted to remember the feeling, she said. Haku shook his head. Had he ever been out with a woman? Never. Not when he was with Zabuza, not when he was in a zoo. Naruto has been pushing him to make a personal life. He has just never found the time. No, that was not it. He has just never been interested in forming those kinds of relationships. It is fine, he said calmly. But I am certain Naruto won't be pleased about it. He added, smiling. The Emperor had expressed interest in the Mizukage. It was a surprise that he hadn't hit on her already. Mei raised an eyebrow at this. What makes you say that? Well, the first time we came here, he asked personal questions and seemed rather interested in you. Though knowing him, it could be just for the canal pleasure. Is he a pervert? Haku laughed before shaking his head. No, he said. He is just particular about what he likes, and rarely does he not act on his likes. Interesting, Mei said in thought. So tell me about him. What kind of person is he? I know he is cold and rational, but that can't be all that is to him. One hardly knows what is in his mind. I don't think anyone knows what he is thinking, Haku said with a shake of his head. Cold, yes, he can be most of the time. But it's not that he can't speak honestly and share warm moments. He has those moments, just not a lot of them. He seems cold because he ignores feelings and rationalizes. I think I am there to make him see those emotions he ignores. So, He is not completely a cold-hearted emperor, May said. And what about you? How did you get to serve him when you are so kind? You don't refer him as the emperor but just his name, which suggests you are close to him. In a way, yes, Haku said with a nod. I speak for him, I represent him. He said to me, what you say is what I say. Anyone disrespects you, they disrespect me. As how I got to work for him, well, he chose me for my kindness. And if I flirt with you, am I flirting with the emperor? I don't think that applies, Haku said calmly. He put on a smile though. Shall we talk business? I have to return to Azu by tomorrow morning. You'll brace the sea at night. It can be quite dangerous. I'll use a different type of method, Haku said. I spoke with the feudal lord again, but he appears unmoved. If he continues to make dangerous moves against the wave, Uzumaki will respond and I am afraid it will not be pleasant. No doubt they'll remove him from the picture, May said with a frown. What do you want me to do? Show him the benefits of working with the wave. You have a good relationship with the country and it has worked well. It is not a threat but a willing partner. You should be able to convince him to see the light. And if I can't? Haku just smiled. I have tried everything I could and I was only summoned back to Azu to make things quick as they don't want troubles in these times, he said. If reason cannot work, you know force will be used and that will ultimately affect the relationship between Kiri and the Empire. May was thoughtful for a moment. If it was Naruto, she'd think there was another hidden motive. But this was Haku and she already knew about the Water Lord's movements. It was a troubling situation and she knew who was in the wrong. I will talk to him. But I must first see Uzumaki and speak to the Emperor at his home. Haku smiled. I was just telling him that if we worked out things well, I could invite you. If you are willing, I can delay my return and we could take a ship early morning, he offered. That is sudden, May said. There is war. Kumo ships will be sailing soon and the waters will become dangerous, Haku said in a firm tone. What do you say? Island, why are you doing this? It was a question that was asked Naruto as he threw an Iwa shinobi inside a cell. There were infamous prisons within the shinobi world. There were some in which once you got in, there was no out. But prisoners were often given some freedom of moving around to play. But in this prison, there are no guards. There was no warden. The seals were the guards and the warden. The prisoners would cook for themselves. If they played with their allocated food, they would starve. There was no mercy in here. No, war criminals did not deserve it. This was a place to punish criminals. Some would see the sun once more but some would never see it again. They would die in here. The prison itself was dug underground. A thick mist covered the island. You could not see anything. The mist also confused one's senses. It was a good place to lock up people who misbehaved in the shinobi world. Naruto's eyes faced the man asking him questions. You are a spoil of war. I thought I should test how things work here. The seal I branded you with keeps you within this cell on lockdown times. When it is not, you will be allowed to move around the entire facility. However, no movements at night. If you leave your cell, you will regret it. Even if you hear someone screaming and calling for help, ignore it. He then threw a key towards the man. This is the key to your cage. Lock it when you are asleep and when you get out. Naruto then turned away from the man. The shinobi unlocked the cell and tried to get out, but he hit an invisible wall. What the hell? Naruto spoke without turning to face the man. There is a barrier that activates on certain hours. It is still experimental things. So we don't know if it will work without someone setting it off. Regardless, the barrier only works for you. So if someone tries to come in, they'll be able to enter but you won't be able to leave. That key is to keep things out of your cell and other people out of your cell, should there be a malfunction in the seals. If you lose it, make sure you retrieve it. You don't kill someone. If you do, you will be terminated as well. As Naruto began to walk out through the dimly lit passages, a thick mist started to creep in. Naruto closed his eyes and walked slowly with both hands inside his pockets. The passages were like a maze but after walking for about 30 minutes within the eerily silent place, he was finally able to get out. The thick mist still covered the place. He jumped up into the air with his eyes still closed. While floating, he turned his eyes south and then let out an explosion of wind that propelled him south in great speed. He landed in the middle of a large forest. He continued walking with his eyes closed before coming to a halt in front of a large rock with a steel door. He pushed open the door and walked down the stairs that went deeper in the underground. Naruto stopped at the third door on his right and walked in. It was library. Karen was sitting behind a large table with a number of papers in front of her. Husband, Karen started without looking up at Naruto. You arrived earlier than expected. I'm not early, Naruto said calmly. I was very clear in the letter I sent you. Karen glanced towards him for a moment before staring at her papers. What day is it? Naruto shook his head as he walked towards Karen. He stopped behind her and placed his hands on her shoulders, massaging them for a moment before leaned on and kissed her on her cheek. I have missed you, you know. Karen snorted. Yeah right, she said. Why must you always doubt your husband's love for you, dear? Have I not been loving and supportive to your dreams? He asked in a whisper while continuing to massage Karen. Karen closed her eyes for a moment, enjoying the comfort. You have been supportive, but I don't know about loving. I think you have been happy to see my back so you can fool around in our bed. Naruto just smiled. And I was thinking you enjoy being around here more than being around me. Karen shrugged carelessly. Who knows? Maybe that is true, she said while turning her face upwards. Naruto lifted up his head a bit and stared straight into Karen's eyes. He smiled. It's good to see that you are still in perfect health, dear. Am I allowed to touch you? Since when do you ask for permission? Since you nearly bit my hands off, Naruto said. That was because I'd said no and you kept insisting. Karen said. You are allowed to touch me. I can see you have been keeping your hands to yourself these days. Hitting a rough patch. Naruto's hands slid down slowly before resting on Karen's bust. He fondled them for a couple of seconds before leaning in to kiss her. He captured her lips slowly, and moved slowly as he enjoyed her. After a minute, he stopped. Nothing like that. I have just been saving myself for you. Don't flatter me with cheap lies. I know you have another wife. Karen said. Naruto just smiled. Don't say it like that. He said. If it wasn't because there was a snake wearing glasses somewhere in here, I would tell you that I'm a little turned on. Even if there was no snake, I would tell you to turn it off. Naruto straightened up. You are as cold as ever, he said before glancing towards the entrance. He saw Kabuto but said nothing to him. Yoshino has found someone to love and he wants us to meet her. That is why I have come here. Just for that? Karen asked with a frown. I thought there was something important. This is important for Yoshino and he is important to me. Naruto said in a firm tone. Besides, it is time you think about returning home. War has started. I have no interest in it, Karen said in a flat tone. I will come back when the war ends. Naruto sighed. But I am still not leaving here without you. How serious are you? I'm willing to drag you while you kick and scream, Naruto said with a straight face. I'm sure Kabuto will appreciate being able to breathe freely without you around. Are you saying I am overbearing? Karen demanded. I didn't say that, Naruto said. Please go prepare yourself. I will be talking to Kabuto while you do so and then we can leave. You will return to finish your things. Karen stared at him and he returned the stare. Fine, she grunted before walking past Kabuto, who then took the seat she vacated. I didn't know Karen was your wife. I know Princess Kayuki is, as it was perhaps how you were able to get the technology from her, Kabuto stated in a measured tone. I really have no interest in playing spy games with you, Kabuto. My personal life has nothing to do with you. I just want to know about your results. Naruto responded in a flat tone. Kabuto had not expected Naruto to start sharing, but he had not expected this kind of talk to get underway this way. Well, it was not like he wanted to become friends with the Emperor. He was fine here, as long as he got the resources he needed to prove many of the hypotheses he had come up with Orochimaru. I saw you have plenty of Sharingans locked up. I asked Karen for a pair but she wouldn't give me any. I really want to work on them. For what purpose? Orochimaru and I came to conclude that the Rinnegan is the natural evolution that comes after the Mangekyo Sharingan, but you need to have both Senju and Uchiha genes to be able to achieve this feat, Kabuto said. Oh, you are not surprised by this. It makes perfect sense. Both Senju and Uchiha are descendants of the Sage of Six Paths sons. He bad too, one became Senju and the other became Uchiha. But that isn't the thing that one immediately comes to conclude. Especially when few people actually believe that the sage even once lived. My clan knows a lot about history and so do the Bijuas. Who first came up with the art of sealing? It was the sage. We are also relatives of the Senju. I would like to have access to that knowledge. Don't be greedy, Naruto was quick to say. So you are saying that it would be possible to artificially recreate Hagoromo, and he able to achieve his power? Yes, Kabuto said. Are you interested? A little, Naruto said. But I am more interested in Hashirama's cells for their healing power. I am afraid that I can be a little reckless in battle when I get excited and I need a power that can cover that flaw. You must know that there are dangers of using those cells. They are so powerful that they can consume your entire body or they might just kill you. Who do you think you are talking to? Naruto asked before releasing a wave of his chakra. It was a sudden burst that shattered the table and the chairs they sat on. Kabuto fell backwards at the sudden burst of frightening chakra. Naruto was already on his feet as he asked. Don't compare me to Danzo or the weak experiment subjects you used with Orochimaru. Kabuto felt his heart beating so fast he felt like it was going to burst. It was not because of fear. No, it was because of excitement. Naruto's chakra was so powerful that it could literally keep you rooted to your position. He also knew that this place was warded with seals meant to control chakra. The fact that he was still able to release that much chakra even with the seals active just meant that he was looking at someone who was ridiculously powerful. The estimates he had were shattered completely. I will need a sample of your DNA to conduct some research to see how your body will react to the cells, Kabuto said. Of course, if you had the time, I would be willing to strap you on a bed and conduct experiments. You'd surely love that, won't you? Naruto said. What do you want? Do you want me to chop off my hand? Just a bit of your flesh. I know it will regrow. The QB heals your wounds. It should be able to close a bit of flesh wound. But I sense you avoid getting that far because while it heals you, it is slowly killing your muscle tissues. Naruto stared at Kabuto for a moment before glancing at the entrance. I don't like him, Karen. He knows too much. It annoys me. A pity, I like him, Karen said as she walked into the library. Why did you have to create this mess? Naruto shrugged. I was showboating, he said. About an hour later. Karen stared at the water around with a frown. She was not looking forward to spending a couple of hours in a ship when Naruto could teleport straight to Uzumaki. She turned to face the Emperor who was sitting on a chair on the deck, relaxed as he was. Why are we using a ship? I wanted an excuse to spend time with you. With you being gone, I sometimes forget that I have you, Naruto explained in a light tone, a smile on his lips. If only that were true, Karen shook her head. You think that I don't miss you? Maybe a part of you does, but I mean the reason we are using a ship. It has nothing to do with feelings. You have never really taken decisions to satisfy your feelings, Karen said. At least I have them, Naruto said in thought. Admittedly, a part of me has been thinking that I have lost my ability to feel. I think I have become a little too cold. If you lost all your feelings, I would seek divorce. I am not going to spend my days living with a man who cannot smile or feel a damn thing. Karen said firmly. You just prefer to use the part of your brain that thinks logically and ignore what your heart tells you. I guess you have been doing it for so long that you don't even realize it anymore. Naruto smiled. I guess they were right to say that the wife indeed knows the husband better. In some cases, even mistresses will know the husband better than the wife. It all depends on whom the husband reveals his true colors to, Karen explained with a wave of her right hand. You're also not a very honest person. I can accuse you of that much. I'm honest. No, you are not. You are a liar. You may not necessarily go on telling people lies, but it is what you don't say that makes you a liar. You hide things and say something else. You let people believe things that are not true and allow people to have perceptions of you that are based on false conclusions, Karen said with a stare. I pity Temari. You said you didn't know anything about her. Naruto keeps me informed, Karen said. Then, why are you questioning yourself? Naruto Uzumaki has always been confident and never doubted himself. That has not changed, Naruto said with a shake of his head. At some point in your life, you just look at your heart and see where you stand. I have done many things in my life, but now I am getting into a crucial stage. Yoshino was also talking about family. It has just gotten me thinking about certain things. Karen turned towards her right and stared far away. She frowned. Why are we using a ship, Naruto? Your senses are still as sharp as ever. I can't believe you could sense enemies that I can't even see, Naruto said with a smile. We are bait. I had this ship travel yesterday with some people to draw the attention of a couple of nuisances in these parts of the ocean. Karen stared at him for a long minute before shaking her head. They'll be upon us in an hour or less, she said. You thinking about your family now? What have you been thinking about with Kayuki? She wants children and I thought you had been trying to knock her up. She isn't getting younger and needs an heir for her country. You have always known you were going to give her that heir. That was part of the marriage agreement. It appears that I can't have children of my own, Naruto said. I'd believe that if we didn't already examine you, Karen said. It's different, you know. Kayuki's child will be her child. The child will not be Uzumaki. But your children will be our children. I'd thought of things that way. You are a flawed piece of human, Naruto, Karen said. She then smiled. Well, I decided to marry you even when I knew you could be as cold as Haku's ice. That doesn't make me feel better. When have you needed someone to tell you words to make you feel better? Karen asked. You've always been independent about your emotions. You don't like inviting people in. Well, we will have to heal those emotional scars the brats in Konoha gave you, she smiled sadly. You are not bad. To those close to you, you have always shown love. Even Kayuki cannot complain. You're mentioning her a lot. Am I? Something bothering you? No, Karen said in a flat tone. I just don't particularly like her. Naruto sighed tiredly. I'm not getting involved. Just wake me up when our prey arrives. You are gonna nap now. I couldn't sleep last night. The ghost of my mother was haunting me. Karen laughed. If you are sleeping, I am going inside to sleep as well. I'll keep the doors locked just in case. Ever since Kabuto arrived, I have been very busy. Hardly get enough sleep. And I am not going to let you sleep tonight. Karen groaned. Why is it that whenever I am home you are always thinking of getting on top of me? I just love you that much. I bet you say that to all the women you sleep with. Have some faith in me, will you? Karen did not respond. She just walked away without saying another word to Naruto. The Emperor just shook his head and then closed his eyes. It was only about an hour later when his eyes snapped open and he found himself surrounded by 4 men. They were just mere bandits who robbed ships delivering goods. Fake intel had been sent out to catch these people. They were being annoyance to his trade with the water country and he really could not be hiring shinobi to guard ships that were traveling on waters he controlled. Sorry to disturb your nap time, Your Majesty, someone said with a wicked grin. Naruto's eyes narrowed down towards his throat. There was a blade pressed against him. He must have really been out of it. I wasn't enjoying my sleep anyway, he said carelessly. Don't move. We just want the goods you have and we will be on our way. But if you move, you will lose your head. Unfortunately there are no goods here, Naruto said before whispering a couple of words. Wind just flashed in front of him with small wind blades that just cut through the sword touching his throat and the hand holding it. Arg! The bandit cried in pain as his arm fell to the floor, with blood gushing out. Naruto stood up silently and looked around. It was just one ship. Yes, they only brought one because they knew their ships were not protected by shinobi. It was just merchants who traveled by their ships. He sighed, looking thoughtful for a moment before his right hand shot towards the man he'd cut. He grabbed the man by his face and then hurled him out of the ship. He hit the waters and started shouting help as he began to sink. Jump, Naruto said to the other 3. You are not worth the effort of me wasting my energy throwing you out. So, jump, now, he said in a deadly tone. The 3 looked in fear before jumping out of the ship. Naruto followed, but towards the bandit ship. There were still some within their ship. But he did not care for them. He just landed atop of water and clapped both hands, holding them together before holding a single hand sign. Futon, falling havoc. Powerful gusts of wind started to pick up above the sky. Naruto jumped into his ship as the water started to become violent, hitting the ships. A tornado formed just above the bandit ship. It was twisting violently and in the blink of an eye, it flashed down like lightning. It crashed through the ship and then went through it, breaking it in half. The powerful rotation caused the ship's halves to be sucked in and as the waters began to form a small whirlpool. Are you trying to kill us as well? Karen asked, seeing that their ship was being pulled towards the whirlpool. You are awake, Naruto said. I should have just stayed still and told those fools that their money inside there, he said before waving his right hand. The whirlpool then started to slow down before finally stopping. That would have been fun, wouldn't? No, Karen responded in a flat tone. How long till we get home? I'm getting sick of the ocean. Naruto looked up for a moment before turning to face the clone steering the ship. He created another clone. There should be more pirates along the way. If not, I'll have to hunt them down. I know their location anyway. Why didn't you just do that from the start? I wanted to show off how powerful I am to my wife, Naruto responded with a smile while walking towards Karen. He held out his right hand. Shall we? Yes, Karen nodded before taking Naruto's hand. But he suddenly pulled her and held her bridal style. Someone is feeling very happy today, she said. But I am forced to run through the sea with you. The barrier around Uzumaki has been erected because of wartime. I cannot teleport straight to the compound and I have not marked any other place aside from the wave. Then let us go to the wave. I don't want to, Naruto said. This should be fun, I want to test my speed, chakra control and see if my stamina levels are still at optimum levels. I have been lazy recently. Why can't you just create a clone and take me to the wave? I don't the reason I need to D. Naruto stopped her from talking by placing a kiss on her lips. Consider this a bonding moment. You're being uncool. I'll just decide to spend the night drinking at a bar. Naruto shrugged. You know when we get home, you are going straight to sleep and I am going to work. Besides, I am fine with you getting drunk but just know that I will come to pick you up and then abuse you. I'll file a complaint to the council. As emperor, I'll threaten to disband it. No, you have no authority to do so. The council represents the Uzumaki clan. You are not the guardian of the clan. Well, I'll be damned, Naruto said before jumping into the water. I'll be quick. You can just enjoy the fresh breath of the ocean. Yes, your majesty. You mock me, Karen. Uzumaki. Naruto stopped in front of Yugito's cell. He stared at her for a moment before opening the cell. He entered and held out his right hand. Yugito stared at it for a moment before grasping it gently. She was helped to stand up and the blonde walked her out of the cell. Once they were out, they disappeared in a blur and appeared atop of the tallest building in the village. Yugito could tell even though this was her first time actually seeing the village. So this was Uzumaki. She could not feel the outside. Everything in here felt so disconnected from the rest of the world. Perhaps it was the barriers they put around the village for protection. The village itself was not that big. Even when you were comparing it to other small nations. The wave was much bigger. Perhaps the Uzumaki didn't want to mix with other people and preferred to stay secluded like this. They had done everything to ensure that the wave grew. It may not be a shinobi country, but the wave had a lot of people. It was becoming powerful and its goal was not shinobi but its trade and economy. Any village allied to it would certainly have big benefits. Yugito closed her eyes and breathed in the fresh air of the outside. God, she had missed the sun. She had missed the light. She missed everything about being outside. Being a prisoner was not fun. But who could she blame for this? She was a kunoichi who failed her mission and this was the result. When will it end though? Things were certainly heating outside. She was not going to see anything. She was not going to protect Kumogaku. She was a prisoner after all. Your chakra is still sealed, Naruto suddenly said. Yugito glanced at the emperor for a moment before looking down at the peaceful streets of Uzumaki. Everyone was going about their lives. There were no problems. I didn't think you'd risk anything like that, she said. Although I would probably not escape, I'd cause some damage in my attempt. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You are a confident kunoichi but you don't strike me as being cold enough to get innocent people involved in your battles. You'd simply transform within these threats and threaten those lives. Yugito did not express any emotion. She didn't want those piercing eyes trying to read her mind. Still, though, getting innocent people involved. It was something else, but she was not going to give Naruto the answer he was looking for. When one is backed against a corner, anything happens. True, but there should be limits, Naruto said. You simply cannot act in the same manner as to the woman I released. She is a cold-hearted woman who'd not hesitate to kill innocent people for her freedom. I don't find that hard to believe, Yugito said. There was something seriously wrong with Kurotsuki. Her hatred for Naruto was also something unhealthy. Why am I out here? Naruto settled down and motioned for Yugito to do the same. I just thought of giving you some time to get a breather. That aside, I have a proposal for you. You'll probably reject it, but I am still going to propose it. Yugito frowned. She didn't like this kind of talk. Regardless of the hardships she experienced in Kumogakur, the village was her beloved home and she would die rather than betray it. I am not betraying my village. Naruto smiled. Shinobi and their loyalty towards their villages, he said, shaking his head. I am not going to ask you to betray your village. I said I want you to be comfortable. I don't want you to be miserable. If you are willing, I can get you a room at a hotel and you can live there until the war ends. Just think about it. You don't have to give a response now. Temptations do indeed come in various forms. This was just a method to get her to like this village. But perhaps there was some idea of making things easy for her. It did not hide the hidden agenda though. Naruto was not a simple person. That is very generous of you, she said, eyeing the blonde at the corner of her eyes. Sarcasm, Naruto said. I'll address it anyway. I am not always generous. I don't always do things for the benefit of someone else. I am offering you a choice. You take it or leave it. Any other hidden reasons? Well, if they are hidden, I am not going to tell you, Naruto said with a smile. We have already made an encounter with Iwa and of course, we annihilated them. Bigger forces will be moving within the next days. Preparations have already been made. Both Onoki and I have made a truce to their troubles. So it begins, Yugito said. You want to go out and fight for your village. This might be treacherous, but if Kumo and Iwa arrive at this village, they will plunder it. They will destroy everything and kill even innocent people. I think it is better for me to be away from such a thing, Yugito explained in a bitter tone. You have a conscience, that is good, Naruto said. They are not going to get into this village. No enemy forces will get into this village. If anyone is going to do that, I will be dead and this village will be empty. Are you sure you should be telling me about the last part? You are not going to tell, are you? I am telling you in confidence. I would rather not know, Yugito said. Karen looked around for a moment before staring at the tall redhead standing beside the creepy and unnerving Yoshino. Miracles do happen. She'd never thought that the man would actually love someone. People might think that Naruto was bad, but Yoshino was worse. He was much nastier and more of a schemer than Naruto was. Yoshino was in many regards a genius. Naruto filled his head with so many things, which made him knowledgeable but also had the wisdom to apply his knowledge. Of course, in battle, Yoshino was a mere toddler compared to the monster smiling beside her. I think you are having unpleasant thoughts about me, Karen, Yoshino said with a smile. He had decided to stop all formalities for the night. He was sure Naruto wouldn't mind. Karen though was another matter. It can't be helped, Karen said with a shrug of her shoulders. Are you going to introduce us? Be nice, dear, Naruto said to Karen in a measured tone but yet still smiling. I would like both of you to meet Miyuki, Yoshino said with a smile, a warm tone, both his hands on Miyuki's shoulders. She was a slender woman with clear crystal blue eyes. She had a large cleavage that made Karen envious. Atop of all, she could win any beauty contest with just that innocent smile of hers, and the pure look on her eyes. Naruto Uzumaki, but otherwise known as the Emperor. This Karen, my wife, Naruto said, introducing himself. A pleasure, Your Majesty, Miyuki said with a small bow. Her voice was almost melodious, a hypnotic sound that caught the Emperor in a mental trance as he studied her. Naruto shook his head. The pleasure is all mine, he said, smiling. I was not expecting such a beautiful woman to be in Yoshino's hands. Yoshino put on a flat smile on his lips. I was positive that you already knew her, he said. Naruto shook his head. You know my half-blood is not wanted by those cold-blooded vampires. He said. I don't play around this side of things, he said. I hope we are not just going to be talking, Yoshino. Of course not, I know you get bored easily, Yoshino said with a smile. Well, Yoshino certainly got a woman who is somewhat like him, Naruto said as he entered the bedroom with Karen following behind him. What gave you that impression? She seemed like a pleasant person. Yet you didn't seem to be too bothered to speak to her, Naruto said with narrowed eyes. He walked towards the back door and slid it open slightly for some fresh air to get in before going back to stand by the bed. You had that covered, Karen said with a shrug before helping Naruto take off his cloak. She didn't bother folding it but just dropped it to the floor. She helped him remove his shirt as well before he helped her remove all her upper clothing. Naruto shook his head and then settled on the edge of the bed. I couldn't ignore her. She has such alluring eyes. But I have met her before. Yes, I have. In a bar obviously, Karen said as she climbed on the bed. She sat behind Naruto and wrapped her hands around him. I won't deny that, but I just had a conversation with her. She acted as if she hadn't met me before. I am sure Yoshino already knows given that flat smile he gave me when he asked, Naruto said with a shake of his head. And you said you hadn't met her before. I was denying seeing her naked. It's not like there are thousands members of the clan. I have met everyone who is Uzumaki in this village, Naruto said. Karen bit Naruto on his right shoulder. You talking about seeing another woman while in bed with your wife, that is such a turn-off, she said. I'm not a masochist, you know, Naruto said before taking Karen's hands. He pulled them forward, causing her exposed chest to press against his back. Well, at least there won't be any harm done. However, I feel very uncomfortable having two Yoshinos. Yet you seem to enjoy conversing with her, Karen said. I was interested in studying her. But I failed. I couldn't see what she had on her mind. I am afraid we might have a problem in the near future, or maybe no. Naruto let go of Karen's hands. You're lazy. Your handwork can't excite me. This is what happens when you stay away from your husband, he said while twisting around. He pushed Karen backwards, and had her lie on her back before going atop of her. I am the emperor, what do you think will happen when I show weakness? People why? Karen trailed off, biting her lip after Naruto had bit her right nipple. People will think you are human, she finished. Naruto's tongue was too busy with Karen's breasts to form any words. Both his hands held her firmly around her waist before he moved up, while kissing her chest, her neck, and cheeks. Being human is overrated. Humans are horrible creatures anyway, he said. But then again, you are still human. Karen was stopped from continuing as Naruto gently captured her lips. His tongue slid into her mouth. She was ready for it. Their tongues choreographed for a couple of moments before Naruto broke it off, after feeling Karen's hands trying to get into his pants. He smiled. Someone is a little happy today, he said. Just shut up and help me out here. Naruto just laughed and grabbed Karen's pants. He helped her take them off. She was pushing for it to be done quickly. Naruto threw the pants away and removed his own pants. Once done, he grabbed Karen by her thighs and helped stretch her legs to help expose her middle. He moved in and his tongue slid out before poking around the entrance a bit. You were saying? Naruto asked, his head held up, looking Karen. Must I help myself? She asked before responding to the emperor. You are also a human. Besides, I think being human helps make you accessible to those Bell are. Naruto had inserted 2 fingers inside of her. He made his hand motions for a bit before Karen tried to close her legs. I haven't even applied chakra yet, he said. Just do it. Naruto did as told. Karen moaned as she felt the pleasure. Her whole body trembled with excitement. Naruto stopped after a couple of minutes and moved up. He started kissing her again. He nearly jolted when Karen grabbed him by the balls. She massaged them for a moment, causing him to stop kissing her. Wow, Karen mouthed as both her hands gently touched the stiff stick. I'm ready, she said. Naruto helped guide it in. His movements were slow. He felt Karen stiffen as the head entered. Slowly, he inserted it in with his closed as he felt the walls around tightening in. After 4 rounds, Karen was fully satisfied. She had a content smile with Naruto's hands holding her gently as they lay in the bed. I'm still not returning before the war ends, she suddenly said. Naruto sighed. I did not expect you to change your mind. He said. It shouldn't take long though. So, hopefully, within a month, you'll be back here, with me. Hopefully, Karen said. Are they going to make you marry another woman? Naruto shook his head. Not as things stand. We'll see once things settle down. But I doubt it. It's not my duty to increase the numbers anyway, and you don't want a lot of children. I'm the one who has to carry them for 9 months. If you can carry one for me, then we can talk. I got married to a difficult woman, Naruto said. Are we going to take a shower? Let us, I can't sleep like this. Karen said. But let us stay like this for a little while longer. Don't fall asleep then. The following day Naruto was sitting on the sofa inside his office while reading a scroll. There were a couple of them lined up on the small table in front of him. Karen was sitting behind his desk, looking through papers with a focused look on her face. They were sitting like that when Karen suddenly spoke. "You can come in, Naruto," she said before the man could even knock at the door. Naruto entered the office. "Your Majesty," he greeted Karen. "Your abilities don't seem to have cooled off a bit despite staying in a place surrounded by a mist that makes it impossible for a sensor to function." "You get used to it," Karen said. "Today, I am your boss. Naruto has given authority to me. So whatever report you want to make, you can make it to me." "Wait till I am dead," Naruto said without looking up from the scroll he held. "Come to me, Naruto." The Uzumaki smiled. "Disappointing, it would have been interesting to take different orders. It would not have been bad serving under you, Karen-sama." "You flatter me," Karen said with an expressionless look on her face. Naruto walked towards Naruto and then whispered into his ear. "Haku is back but he brought a guest with him. He said he wasn't sure if he should bring her here with Karen around. He is currently showing her around the village to stall. Will she be leaving soon?" "Speak up so I can hear you," Karen said with a stare. She knew they were talking about her. "It is men's business, dear. Do you want to hear that?" Although Naruto had a woman for the whole night, he could not get it up, Naruto said in a flat tone. "If he has such problems, I can take him back to the island with me. I am sure Kabuto can work something out," Karen said with a smile. "But nothing is happening. We can as well use him as a test subject because he will be useless as a man." "I don't have such problems," Naruto said before looking at Naruto. "Haku is afraid she might have a problem," Naruto said in thought. Unless Haku was planning something personal, there should not be a problem. But then again, this was Karen. She could still have a problem. Well, it did not matter anyway. "Yes," Naruto said with a nod of his head. "Tell him it's fine. Once he is done, he can bring her here." "Hi." Naruto saluted before leaving the office. Karen stared at Naruto for a moment. "So you are hiding things from me now?" "Yes," Naruto nodded. "We didn't have to sneak around or whisper when you were not around. But since you are here, we have to do things this way," he said. "I will be leaving soon," Karen said. "I need more money, or at least certain things I need." "Can't give you any. Work with what you have," Naruto said in a hardened tone. "We are not negotiating that, Karen. We have a war we must prepare for and I can't be wasting funds we don't even have. At this stage, we are just leeching off the wave country. It is your war. And it is my empire. Not ours," Naruto said. "You can speak to Yoshino. But Imperial coffers are not going to give you anything. You're being stingy. If you saw how bad the situation is, you wouldn't say that," Naruto said with a slight shake of his head. "What do you want to work on anyway? Shouldn't you be thinking about wrapping up your things in preparation of your return home?" "There was something I wanted to make before that," Karen said. "I'll have to leave Kabuto in charge of the island." She paused for a moment. "Can I really trust him?" "I believe so," Naruto said. "We don't have to worry about him. Though, being careful isn't a sin, that is why we gave him a special seal," the Emperor said. "You can also tell him that if he wants to move in and of the island, he can speak to Yoshino and make arrangements. In the meantime, we have a guest to entertain." "A woman, no doubt." "Yes, the Mizukage," Naruto said. "What does she want?" "She came with Haku, we will hear from her when she arrives. He is currently giving her a tour around the village. You have been very accommodating to her. If it was someone else, you would have forced things already. But you have been diplomatic with her," Karen said. "Sometimes I wonder about your intentions and if you really don't hold grudges as you say you don't. Kiri was in a bad state and fighting them would have made things difficult for us. I made a rational decision," Naruto said with a shrug. "But admittedly, Onoki, I dislike and so does the Raikage. Both of them really don't fit into my ideal world, thus they must die. Mei fits in perfectly. My other reasons are just a bonus." Iwagakure Onoki had divided his men into 5 groups, 4 with 2,000 shinobi and the other with just 1,000. They were all going to march towards the wave country before heading to Uzashio. Naruto had even made things simpler by creating a bridge they could use to reach the island without having to struggle with the whirlpools that surrounded it. The problem now was the intel he had received. Konoha was moving out and it appears that Suna was also moving as well. It didn't surprise him that they were both making moves at the same time. They were allies after all. But Konoha moving was the bigger problem. He didn't expect him to move so early. A confrontation was bound to happen and the leaf was likely to stop them from crushing Uzushio. It would be a big problem. Yet, if he managed to work out things with the Raikage, they could turn on the leaf. Should that happen, it was going to be a shinobi world war alright. Onoki wanted to avoid this. Kitsuki, Onoki called the man. Your unit will move second. Akatsuki will take the lead through the land of canyons. 2 units will force through the land of mushrooms and then into canyons to avoid entering Fire Nation. Always keep contact with other units. And don't move too quickly. Keep a safe distance with others. Hi. Now get ready to move out. Akatsuki will be moving out within an hour. Onoki then turned to Kuretsuki. Because of these events that have occurred, you have an important mission that you must handle. And don't fail this one, Kuretsuki. If you succeed, we hold Suna hostage, possibly Konoha to some extent. We could even have them turn against each other. It doesn't have to anyone specific but get someone important. I will get it done, old man. Kuretsuki said in a firm tone. I failed the last time, I won't fail this one. Besides, this time, there will be no return if I fail. I will be buried in the desert if things go wrong, she added in a bitter tone. I hope it doesn't come to that, Onoki said seriously. We will be looking for someone to help you out. Once we find this person, I will call for you. Make sure you work fast. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.